We're not live yet. Hold on.
Oh, I see it.
Okay, we got it. Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cartalicchio. I want to welcome you to another version of Destination Health Podcast, where we find function in a dysfunctional world. We have part 2 today. We have my friend Karen Porter on. I'm very excited. We were discussing a bunch of stuff last week, and we just didn't get it all together because there's just so much. So want to welcome Karen back for part 2. Who knows where we're going to go from here, Karen? Maybe there's a part 3 in our days here. So let's see what we got going on. All right, we are live. And so Karen, tell us a little bit about what we were discussing. I know that we were discussing you had severe IBS, you had anxiety, you have debilitating bouts of suicidal depression. You were hospitalized, okay, during this time. You were saying last week, great husband, beautiful children. From the outside, you can see that there's this beautiful life that you and your husband have created. So let's pick up from there. Tell us a little bit about that.
You've got it, Dan. Like I was waiting for the whole story there. You got me figured out. But yeah, you're right. Exactly. It was the ideal life looking from the outside in. And it, and with in many respects, it really was. There were, so many times where things were going great. But unfortunately, there were a lot of times where things were not going well. As you said, I was dealing with the IBS, which, in and of itself can be difficult enough. It's not, seemingly as bad as colitis. It's kind of that catch-all, right? When you don't fit into one of those. But I dealt with the extremes of both ends of the IBS. And continual bloating and discomfort day after day. And it was just my normal, right? And I didn't realize how much it was affecting me until, at the end of the day, I would realize, or not even the end of the day, sort of midway to later afternoon, I would realize that all of my energy was expended in the morning because I felt my best after a night's sleep, right? But as the day went on, that digestion just wore away at me, and that bloating would leave me so exhausted and cranky, right? But I always say that I would take that in a heartbeat over what was going on with my mental health, because both of them are really silent things, right? It's like you break your leg, you wear a cast, people are sympathetic. Right. You experience a heart attack, no one can see it. You tell them and they get it, right? But so often we don't talk about digestive issues, IBS or Crohn's or colitis. And right. We certainly, don't talk so much anxiety and depression. And so, both of them are challenging, but I would say I would take the IBS pain and discomfort and everything that came along with that in a heartbeat before I would take the anxiety and suicidal depression, right? So that was really the most difficult part of all of it, and the guilt and shame that went along with it when everything appeared to be fine, right? Like, why the hell was this happening? So,
right. Yeah. And I think last time we were discussing there was some nature versus nurture. There was a combination of both that was going on. You had realized that your mom probably suffered from some of this. You had a father that was very similar to mine, very stoic and so forth and so on. So you did suppress your emotions. You did suppress your thoughts for, right. Practically your entire life. Let me ask you a question here. Your children, are you teaching them to express themselves, or are you teaching them to be a little bit more stoic? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, That's a very good question. And,
sometimes I do
so
come
much
up with good questions, Karen,
I know you do, Dan. Like I said before, you pulled so much out of me. It's an excellent question. And, where I am today is very different than, the place I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, right? In my kids' formative years, they're 24 and 26 right now. So adults, unto themselves. I was always very close with them. And of course, when I was going through, the worst of the depression, I would retract and, I had nothing to say. And I'd be the one at the kitchen table who was normally the effervescent, vibrant one. And now I was quiet, right?
Right.
So it's difficult to look back and really know, but I was always in touch with my feelings and their feelings. Sure, there's definitely things I would have done better, right? When we look back, I think we can all say that.
Listen,
but even
that's
from
just normal,
when
Karen. Yeah, that's normal, Karen.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
even when
Yeah.
exactly. But even when my kids were young, or I remember when my son was young and he went through this period at the age of 5 where he decided, the hugging and the kissing, not so much right now, Mom, right? And rather than saying, rather than coming at him like, you need to hug before you go to school or whatever, I sat down with him and, I would be very honest and say, this is how it makes me feel. What you're doing, this is, I just want to let you know how it makes me feel. So I think and whether tears came to my eyes or whatever emotion I was feeling at that time, I tried to not chastise them, but sort of say, get in touch with my feelings and hopefully they will too. So could I, and now I'm trying to teach them so much from what I've learned over the last, 20, 30 years, right? But, whoever you're teaching, whether it's kids or other adults, they have to be in place, right? They have to be ready to receive what you're going to give. So.
Right, 100%. Great answer. And, I have taught my son to be more expressive, I guess, and, than I was growing up. We were very stoic, where I grew up. And it's good and it's bad. Because now, he's 13. Karen, he doesn't shut up. And what I'm teaching him now is that you have to have also boundaries in life too. You can't just be, all the time. So
Right.
there are boundaries I'm teaching him. So, it's very interesting, when you're raising your children and you have these experiences and you want to teach them and you want to impart upon them what you have learned over
Mhm.
years. I mean, that's part of being a parent in
Right.
addition to. So
And sometimes it comes out like wah, 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 right?
yes, it does. There's no doubt about it, 100%. But, I'm teaching him a bit about boundaries right now. So
Mm-hmm.
what was that like for your husband? What was that like for him during the times when you were in the hospital? I know he was very supportive of you. What was going through his mind?
Oh, I can't imagine, how difficult it was for him. And, I've told my story on stages and in front of small groups, right?
Mhm.
And I've had a couple women to me. I was kind of shocked actually, but a couple women said, boy, you're lucky that he stayed with you with everything, that was going on. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You are 100% right. It had just never been, said to me like that. And it has to have been difficult. I think I did last the only thing he, not the only thing he'd say to me, but I remember him saying, saying that you're not always like this. If ever I apologized, right, and said, why are you still here, or something like that, and he would say, because I know the Karen that I married, that I love, I want to be with, right? So I think he just clung to that and tried to pick me up and, and help me get in the position that I needed to be at. But man, it had to have been tough, because I remember periods of time where he was like afraid to go to work, afraid to leave me.
Leave you
And
alone.
as awful as it was, oh yeah. And as awful as it was to have been hospitalized, that given him that period of time that he knew he didn't have to worry about me. Like, and it sounds awful to go back there and remember that, but I can remember that, right? So, it would have been, and he bore the brunt of everything, right? Because as I think I said on the last call, we didn't let it outside of the two of us, right? Mm-hmm. And so the only thing my parents or my brother and sister-in-law knew was that I was experiencing some depression, right? They had no idea the extent of it. So even my own family didn't find out about it until the very last episode. Mm-hmm. So
it is a difficult situation to discuss when you have anxiety and depression, and it's something that not a lot of people discuss. There's always a stigma that goes along with that, and as a society, I think it's becoming less and less. My son has been diagnosed with ADHD, and he's a very active boy, plays hockey. I may have to ship him to you in the event he takes it to the next level, Karen. And you and your husband can have another teenager in the house. Okay, I have to ship up some
right
for that one, because
hey, I got the energy, Dan.
You got the energy to do it. All right. So, my wife would probably be very upset. Where's my son? I sent him up to the quarters. They're in
that's
Canada.
right.
Who are these people? My friend Karen. Don't worry about it. We got it. So, I just got to ship up a lot of money. So, because they got to eat, I got to pay for,
right,
school,
right.
To eat, and all of that. So, even back during when he was first diagnosed, he's only 13. So what? About 9, he was diagnosed. People look at you differently once you say something that you have, and we had him assessed recently. I'm going to share now. It's my turn to share, and you can ask me some questions. So we got a little role reversal here. So he was just retested, and they said that he's actually extremely, in the upper percentage in certain aspects of learning and brain development. And I was trying to explain to my wife that sometimes different areas of your brain develop quicker than other areas. And so it's not that he's bad, it's not that he's good, it's just that he's different in the way that he learns and the way that he presents himself. And he's not a malicious boy where when he gets up in the middle of class and he's going off and telling jokes, it's just that he doesn't know how to deal with that. And that was a source of angst for me, being a father, because you don't want to see anything wrong. And it's the same thing in your situation. Probably discussing it with your family and your friends may have brought on some angst, where you didn't want to, discuss it until they learned about the last bout. But you know what? Coming from an immigrant family, coming into the United States, there's one thing that I was taught. You can overcome anything that you want, and you can really just move forward, because who said it? Hawthorne, families are always rising and falling in America. So,
Mm.
I mean, I think we're still on the rise. So anyway, in Canada too, let's even
I was
bring
going to say that.
let's bring in the Canadians. We're cousins, Karen. It's all good.
That's right.
All
That's right.
right. We're brothers, sisters, cousins. So even though, and for those that are listening right now, if there is something that's going on in your house, don't be afraid to reach out for help. That's number one. And number two, don't be afraid to discuss it, because it's okay. And it's going to be okay. As a good friend of mine, like I said the last time, Dr. Rose says, it's going to be okay. And you'll get through it. You want that support system. You want to be able to be there for your children, for your wife, for your husband, for your significant other, because makes it better, right? I'm sure with your husband there, it just made it better. So talk about that. How is that to have your husband there? Honey, I love you, and I know the Karen that you are. What was that like for you?
For him to say that, or for that time period, I mean,
For
it
him to
was,
say that, and
yeah,
well as during that time period,
yeah,
because you may have said, and who are you to even come near me? I don't want to have anybody near me, right? So,
right. Yeah, I think that's a good question. You're so full of them, Dan. Yeah, and that's my common response. Good question. I've never had some of these questions. But I would say that it was wonderful and, and so beneficial to have his support. But where I was in the spiral down, right at the bottom, I couldn't see it, right? I couldn't see what he saw. I couldn't see me getting better. I couldn't see why he was still with me, like all of those things, right? Because when you're at that point, or like I'm going to speak for myself, when I was at that point, I was not a good mother. I was not a good wife. I was not a good employee. I was failing at everything in my mind, right? So for him to be there and to, and to say that was, I'm sure, the only thread that kept me going, along with my kids. But it was difficult. I remember it was difficult for me to see it and to understand, but only to hope that it was going to get better, right?
right, absolutely. So here's a question, because I know that you wanted to discuss this question. So we'll go to one of these questions now. And for those, we do have a bunch of people that are listening in. And if you have any questions for Karen and you want to discuss anything with her, please put that in the comment section. And if you're listening to this after everything and you're listening to this on replay, please put a question in the comment section. And what we'll do is I'll make sure Karen gets it, and I'll make sure that we have some, we'll have Karen answer it. So you called yourself an experiment. I mean, that's not nice. It's an experiment. You're a scientific experiment. What does that mean to you? You just touched upon it for a couple of sentences the last time. So what does it mean to you?
Yeah, exactly. And that's only something I sort of came up with fairly recently in my assessment of, myself and what I do in my career. And I really am. So I am a holistic nutritionist, and I am a health and wellness coach, primarily for women. But I've attracted men and also young women.
Right.
And so when I say that I'm an experiment, it's like I walk the talk. I'm not just someone who was educated and then wants to tell you, how to do this. I walk the talk. I am the experiment, I call it, that everything I've done and everything I've learned and everything I continue to do is what I offer to my clients. I'm never going to ask my clients to do something that I haven't done myself. So I am the experiment for all of the teaching and inspiration and motivation and learning that I share with other people. So that's the experiment.
You know what? And that's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing,
I think so.
Yeah, I'm listening to you say this, and I can sit there and raise my hand, and I could say I'm an experiment too, because,
Hmm.
after I had my heart attack, it wasn't that I just educated and, nutritionist, masters, teaching, and all of that. I had to live that
Exactly.
lifestyle to get back, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here where I am
Right.
today. So
And
when
we wouldn't be so passionate about what we do.
correct. And you
Mm.
hear that word passion all the time. You hear the word passion all the time. It is extremely important, because you want to be into what you're doing, because that's how you serve humankind. That's how you,
Right.
serve. And listen, just a little sidebar, because I do coach different chiropractors and nutritionists on how to build a business. Without that and without serving, the money really doesn't come. The money comes after you serve. And
Right.
I can look at myself and I can say I'm an experiment. And I think I know that I said to my son at one point in time, I said, you know what? you know, you've been given this diagnosis, this label of ADHD, and I'm looking at him and he's looking at me, and he was a little sad about it, because you don't want to be called that when you're younger. It could have
Mhm.
been, that you were whatever, and they still don't understand that. But, I looked at him and I said, I think I had ADHD. And they said, I think I know I had ADHD. And there was no diagnosis about that back in my
No.
day. As my partner says, how old were you in the 50s? I say, oh, about 30, in my 30s, but not really. But anyway, I mean, I do remember sitting in class and, just kind of bouncing, looking at the clock
Yeah.
every 10 seconds and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
So it's okay, because once you're honest with yourself, and I'm going to ask you about this now, once you're honest with yourself, then you can move forward, because until you're honest with yourself, you can't move forward. Am I correct in saying that?
100%. Yeah.
Tell me, what was that moment of honesty with you?
The moment of honesty in in which regard?
Anyone that you want to go to, Karen, because I'm going to go for multiple honesties. So pick one.
Okay. So yeah, so at the last session, we talked about the pivotal moment of me being at my daughter's graduation, right?
Right.
So we've already talked about that one. So do you mean just another time where
So I think what
I was very
I'm asking is that there's multiple levels and there's multiple times in your life where you have those aha moments, where you have the honesty, right?
almost daily. That's why I can't pick one.
Pick one. Pick one from yesterday, Karen, and let's go
Yeah.
from there.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so many aha moments. Like, just for example, the one that's coming to my mind is each time I had a depressive episode and was hospitalized, and then did months of outpatient care, and then spoke with the psychologist, et cetera, et cetera. The last time that I did that, after the last episode, the therapist said, I want to refer you to a mindfulness instructor. I think maybe I talked about this, not
No,
sure.
you didn't talk about this.
Okay. And to me, that was the missing link in the tools in my toolkit, right? That I use and that I share with my clients. And so I signed up for this course that was a 6-week course. I would go once a week. And each week I would sit there while she taught us, mindfulness and meditation. And I just remember thinking, I don't understand this. In my logical brain, I was like, this is a waste of my time. This is not helping me. This is not helping me. Right. And I tried to do it at home.
Right. And that's another
Exactly.
normal reaction, because you're like,
Yeah,
there's nothing tangible that I have right now.
exactly.
I'm not taking a
Exactly.
pill. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we did homework of it, throughout the week, and I would still sit there and yeah. And you're right. It is an absolutely normal reaction. But especially when you're in the depths of depression. Okay, I was out of the hospital, had some months of therapy, but I was still pretty low, right? So, and being from that very productive, workaholic nature that you can relate to, right? For me to sit there and do nothing but meditate felt absolutely useless to me, right? But I kept going and kept going. And then after the 6 weeks was up, I'm not even sure if I realized it was helping me, or I just thought, you know what, I think I need to keep doing this. And I did. And then eventually I started to see improvement. So it was that realization. And then I still didn't bring it into my daily practice for a couple of years. I think it helped me to get out of where I was, but I would do it, occasionally, but I didn't make it a practice until maybe 2 years ago. And now it's something that meditation is something I look forward to with my warm cup of organo reishi mushroom coffee. That's kind of like my routine.
Do you like the organo gold too?
I do.
Oh my goodness. I got to brew it in the other room. Come on. And it's a Canadian company too, by the way, right?
So yes, I sit there doing my meditation. Honestly, the first thing when I wake up in the morning, I look forward to doing that. So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is my first thought is, good morning. I love you, Karen. It's going to be an amazing day. So that's how I start my morning. And then I step outside, do some breath work. I got my water, and then it's like my coffee and my meditation. So, and now I'm sharing that with my clients, and I'm seeing how they're back at the beginning, right? And I'm like, no, this is good. This is good. But we've got to, I still have to appreciate where I was. So, in terms of the initial question and that honesty, it's like that awareness. Oh man, I need this. But something recently that came to light, I think you talked about boundaries with your son. And I was going to say, hey, Dan, I could use some help with that. But you know what? For myself, when I really got into my business and things started to get busy, I did not have boundaries. And, I thought I was still doing my self-care, and I was, like my food, my activity or exercise, and my morning routine and meditation is non-negotiable, right? So I feel, and supplements, like I know that those things are on point, or not perfect, but very good. But what I realized in a couple months where I was starting to go downhill, not in terms of my mood, but in terms of my sleep and, almost like increased heart rate, which is anxiety, right? Even though I didn't feel anxious, but I was, had this excitement, energy level, things going on. And I was responding to clients from almost the minute I finished my morning meditation until I went to bed at night. So talk about a lack of boundaries, right? But that's my people pleasing and energy type of personality, right? And so that honest awareness or that truth came out when I realized, I'm running into trouble here because I don't have boundaries, right? So it's that awareness. And when I finally caught it, I said to my husband, you need to peel me away from my computer or my phone at 9:30, and you need to take me upstairs. I need to read. I need to listen to a podcast. I need to do something, right? Because that was the part that I was telling my clients, but I was not doing it, right? So
I get it. I get that. So you're living proof of who you are and what you can do to help individuals out. And that's
exactly.
I mean, there's so many questions that I have right now, so I don't know which way I'm going to go. But let's go with a simple one. What are the top 3 tools that you have in your toolkit that you use? Would mindfulness be one? What are the top 3 kits?
For sure. So I always talk about nutrition, activity, or movement. It can be joy. I want it to be joyful movement, not like joyful movement in that you go out for a run or a brisk walk, like you talked about, because it's what your body wants to do. You listen to your body and you do what feels good, right? It's not, it doesn't have to mean, don't get me wrong. I love HIIT training, high intensity and strength resistance, but it doesn't mean going to the gym and killing yourself, right? It is joyful movement. So it's nutrition, joyful movement, mindfulness, and mindset and self-fulfillment. You asked for 3. I think I gave you 5.
That's great.
But
So
those are my top 5.
Podcast is over. You gave me more than what I wanted, but that's all good. So I have a question here. I'm trying to figure out how to formulate this. Is there a balance? Have you found a balance between, the mindfulness, the nutrition, the mindset, like you've said, and also being a type A type of personality, right? Do you have a balance now with that? Is that something that you can handle? Are you still driven? I mean, you have a passion for something, so you want to bring it to the world. You really want to change the world, right? And in order to do that,
exactly.
you have to have that type A personality, or at least in my opinion. I may be wrong, but is there a balance that you have now?
Yeah, but it is, like you said, always being constantly aware of, okay, looking out for when when you realize you are a little bit out of balance, right?
Right.
So I'm very driven, as are you, in my passion to help others, right? My biggest thing is I want to help others to feel as good as they possibly can, because for 30 years I didn't. That was a lot of years not to be feeling as good as I could, right? And I find
we're
with
only
most
21, so where did the 30 years come from?
But yeah, right. Thanks, Dan. But I find, as with men and women, as we are getting over 45, this is where it's really comes into like, whoa, I could get away with stuff, right? Like, not me, everybody has that thought, like I'm invincible. I can get away with anything in my 20s, 30s, and early 40s. But after that, you can't, right? So that's why it's so important. But as I said, I'm also starting to attract young women in their 20s and early 30s. And it's like, oh my gosh, you are me. You are where I was.
Are they coming to you because they have similar issues, or they haven't maybe manifested, but they're like, my life is spiraling a little bit right now?
That's right.
That why they're looking?
Yeah. So they may have digestive issues. They may have anxiety or depression, or they may have autoimmune conditions, right? It's so many things. And the thing I love about what I'm doing right now, my clients are seeing big weight loss in the current reset program that I'm offering. But you know what? I am not a weight loss coach, but that is what makes people excited, because as you mentioned before, it's tangible. So many of the other things are not necessarily immediately tangible. But the whole reset that I offer is really about reducing inflammation in the body, helping the body to be in balance, right? And guess what? Weight loss, sleep, energy, oh my gosh, so many other brain function improves when you do these things, right? So I think, that older, my age men and women are seeing this or understand it, and the young women are realizing it as well, right?
Awesome.
And biggest thing is I wish in my 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, anywhere after that, I wish that someone like me had have come along and helped me. And that's why I want so much for these women.
Yeah, it's kind of like that when you're ready, the teacher kind of appears type of a situation.
Exactly.
So what are the top 3 things that you've learned on your journey?
Well, related back to the toolkit pieces, right? Self-care is huge, right? Self-compassion
Absolutely.
is absolutely key, right? But also giving yourself some, well, it fits in with compassion, but giving yourself grace, right? It's not about perfection, right? It's just about progress. So continually striving to, to be your best.
Right.
I listen to a meditation I change them up, but one I listen to almost every day says, every day I'm, what is it? Every day I'm doing better. Every day I'm striving to be my, my best. And it's not like you have, but not the perfectionism. I have to be the best at everything I do. Cause I look back and that was me in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. It was like, I have to be a great mother and a great employee and a great this and a great that, right?
Sure.
It's our own expectations that, can be our worst enemy, right? But
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
it really is thriving to be our best that, is what we want.
That is great. We're almost done with our time, and I do feel like we have more to discuss. So we'll look at that, after the American Thanksgiving, because you guys just had your Thanksgiving up there, right?
Yeah.
All
Mhm.
right. Well, happy Thanksgiving,
Thanks. Same to you coming up.
it's coming up. So, and we do have a bunch of people liking our podcast so far. So that's great. So, you want to help both females and males. You have males coming in, and you're looking for a new client base. What's that new client base that you're looking for?
Right. So it is ideally women over 45 and those men who feel inclined, that want to regain their energy and feel great in their bodies. And these are people, especially women, men as well, very much like you and I, Dan, who are high achieving, want to be thriving people, right? So they are real estate agents, they are entrepreneurs, they
Mhm.
are, almost from every walk of life, but have that personality, and willingness to know that they want to feel better, right?
Right. Sure.
And are ready to make an investment in themselves, because that's really what it is, right? Like I offer a 5-day challenge, a free challenge that
Yeah.
I love to have people into, and you get tips, right? So that's something I offer, the Feel Fabulous in 5-day challenge. My next one is November 22nd, but really, and women, get a lot of great tips from being involved in that. But really, in order to really make a big change, to really transform where you are now, to be thriving, that is the investment, and that is the Your Best Life reset program that I offer.
Awesome. You know
Yeah.
what? We'll discuss that. There's definitely some synergy here with some of the stuff that I'm doing. And
Mhm.
listen, you know what? Interestingly, to me as a doctor, IBS, gut issues, gut-brain axis that can lead to anxiety and depression and so forth. So maybe that's a topic for another time. I think that's a
That's
topic,
right.
and we can go through that. So is there anything else that you're thinking of that you want to discuss before we end today? We're going to be back on you and I think in about a month or so, and we'll pick up from there, and we'll see what other good topics we can come up with. I think there's something here where we can motivate, educate, and inspire. So,
For sure. For
any
sure.
any any other thoughts?
The thing that's coming to my mind, the phrase, well, two things. The first one is, you are worth it.
Mhm.
When, I think so many women and men will look at something, will look at an investment and think, oh, I can't spend that on me. I'm sure I can figure this out myself. Well, guess what? That doesn't generally happen.
Mhm.
And the thing is, you are worth it. You are worth the investment to feel better, to look better, to thrive better, right? And so my mantra is, let's let's together make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Make it the best. I love that. That is great. How can my listening audience contact you?
Yeah, so my website is karenporter.ca. Super easy. Just my name, and then the CA. .com was taken, and I am in Canada, so .ca is good. And I'm also on Facebook as karenporter.ca, and Instagram, Karen Porter Holistic Health Coach.
Awesome. So for those of my listeners, contact Karen. Even though she says, I have my accent, she has an accent being in Canada. So, it's all good, but we definitely recommend her. We definitely want you to contact her. So if you're female or male, definitely get in touch with her. Karen, thank you very much for being on again today. Great conversation. Let's pick it up again in first week in December. And I think we have some more that we discuss. And yes, I do come up with questions during the course of it, during the interview, that you're like, oh my goodness, it was like I was on the other day with somebody, and they were like, I thought we were going to talk about macronutrients, and I'm like,
nah.
No, we're not talking about macro. Yeah, we'll discuss that in about half an hour. We'll get your grams of carbs and proteins and healthy fats, but we'll discuss other stuff. So seriously, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. It's been a great conversation. Let's pick up again in December. Want to thank everybody for listening in today. Again, please contact Karen. Great, great, great stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you, Karen. And we'll see you the next time. Take care now.
It's been great. Thanks.